Coming at you on location from Nambia, the world's premier producer of Covfefe, this is The Bunk, your source of fact-checking information for the mainstream media to your auntie's Facebook ramblings. It's lovely here in Nambia. There's no climate change. Healthcare is bordering on self-sufficient. Such a lovely, lovely place. So glad to be here in the imaginary country of Nambia. Did you see that?
I saw something you posted, but I didn't know what...
Oh, you have no idea what it is?
I don't know what Nambia is, and I don't know what Covfefe is.
You don't, what?
What the hell is it?
Oh, this is months old. Donald Trump at some, I don't know what time it was in America, like 3 o'clock in the morning, which is his usual typical hour, his witching hour, posted on Twitter, despite the negative press Covfefe, and then nothing. It was up there for 6 hours before he deleted it. And then said, only a handful of people know what Covfefe means. He was trying to cover it up. They never addressed it. He never even said, oh, I screwed up. He was like, oh, I meant that. And I was like, oh, my God. And Nambia, he's at the UN at the moment. Well, he's in New York addressing the UN. And he had a luncheon with a whole bunch of African leaders, including the leader of the African Union. And he rattled off a whole bunch of countries, and one of them that he said was Nambia. Not once. He acknowledged the presidents of the various countries that were present, including the president of Nambia, and then later on said that Nambia has a self-sufficient healthcare system. Now, sadly, the president of Namibia was present.
Was present?
Yes.
Do they have a self-sufficient healthcare system?
I don't know. I didn't really look into that, but it's just the fact that he twice in front of the president of that country at a UN conference said Nambia.
Africa. Was it held in Africa?
No. It was held at the UN, so in New York.
Ah.
But still, the African leaders were there. And then during his UN speech, which was it wasn't the luncheon where this speech was given, but there was another UN speech that he was giving. I think it might have been the same one where he threatened to eradicate North Korea. He was also whining about how much money America gives to the UN for aid in Africa. And Robert Mugabe was there, sleeping. He'd fallen asleep listening to Donald Trump. So this is the first time people have heard you in a couple of weeks, Lucy.
That's true.
So anyone who didn't listen to the post-credit stuff in the last episode, I screwed up 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. I forgot. Well, I didn't check the audio after I hit record, and then I checked that both our voices were coming through the sound card, and it was fine. And we do live monitoring, so everything that we listen to is coming to the sound card and then back to us. So I'm not necessarily hearing what's being recorded, only if I set things up properly, which I didn't. And ended up with 2 copies of my own voice, and it was just basically. It was funny because it was quite a ranty evening.
Monologue rant.
It pretty much turned into a monologue, which is why my last episode was a monologue because you were sick last week, so you couldn't come. And I thought, well, that whole speech about Andrew Wakefield turned into a monologue, so I may as well make it a monologue. But it's basically this recording from the week beforehand was basically 2 hours of me yelling at myself. But also, I'm answering questions you're saying, so it's like I'm talking and I'm responding to a voice which you can't actually hear.
I need to listen to this.
Yeah, it's on our shared server, so knock yourself out. It's quite amusing. But so this week's going to be pretty lighthearted. We're just going to poke some fun at some ridiculous things that have been posted on Facebook. Not necessarily get too scientific unless we run out of stories, but yeah, I kind of need a bit of a break from heavy scientific studying because Andrew Wakefield just burnt me the hell out. It's a nightmare. He's such a slippery motherfucker. And just having to constantly go back and forth and back and forth. He says something and then later he'll rebut it. Then I have to go back and check 3 different videos or 3 different sources to see he said this. Does he consistently say this? It's just been an absolute nightmare. Also, one thing I constantly need to remind myself that my target audience isn't the anti-vaxxers. And it's not even, it kind of is the people on the fence, but what I was hoping to gain out of that was kind of more speak to the people who know that he's full of shit but don't understand why. And people who kind of know that the MMR thing is bad science, but kind of left it at that and so, well, it's just bad science. Not realizing how intentional all that was and how much he still continues to try and defend it, and the damage that he continues to cause. And it's all intentional for his own personal gain. And but just having to deal with him. And also, I have to say, part of the problem was Brian D's website. There was a journalist that did a piece on him a few years ago.
Yeah.
His name was Brian D, and he was the guy that started exposing all of this. But I didn't want to take a journalist's word for it. But his work was a really good launch pad for a lot of avenues of investigation. So I kind of used him as a starting point for a lot of this sort of stuff. But his website is so poorly laid out. It's absolutely atrocious, and I found it really hard to find things. And once I found something, if I closed that window down, I really found it hard to open up and find it again. And from there, like, there was even things where even when I did my write-up, I found more information. I found even more resources. It could have been potential avenues of investigation. But, I left it as it was. Also, frustratingly, there were a lot of things that I wasn't sure could be chased up. I mean, anything that seemed like I could get if I had the time and money to do a freedom of request for these documents, I thought, okay, well, he's not going to lie about that. And there were documents such as the patents that he exposed. When he did his investigation, they weren't available to the public. So there was kind of that question, well, he could have lied about them, that he could have made them up out of nowhere and thought he would get away with it.
Yeah.
But now that those documents are available to the public, if they were fake, then we could find out, and they weren't. I found them, I downloaded them, they were exactly as he reported them. So I pretty much considered him to be fairly reliable. And if there was anything that was available on freedom of information, then I looked at that. But there were a few things that I really, really wanted to include that I wasn't sure that I would have access to at any rate, unless I had some kind of powers of persuasion. So I had to leave them out, unfortunately. But things like a letter from one of the children in the study saying that he made a lot of the story up about his child. There were some lab reports from experiments done on the children before he had ethics approval. So, yeah, I mean, there's a question of whether his activities were within the scope of his ethics approval. But if he's doing those experiments before he even got the approval, that's kind of a moot point.
Yeah.
So, but I'll say that now I can't validate these sources. So at the moment, as far as I'm concerned, they're only hearsay. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't, unless I saw them for myself, unless I got in contact with the parents myself, unless I was able to obtain these documents for myself, I can't.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And I don't know if those lab reports will be available on freedom of information.
No, I don't think so.
Well, then I will leave it at that and say, well, take all that with a grain of salt. So what we're going to do this week is pretty much just hold the onion type thing.
Yep.
Now, we're going to, in the past we've had onion or news, but what I want to do is onion, true or false. So whether it's onion, whether it's something that's true, or whether it's being reported as truth but is false.
Like fake news.
Fake news.
Real news or satire.
Fake news, real news, or satire. Yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at. First, actually, I want to quickly talk about Patreon. If no one's heard of Patreon, that's a great way to support your favorite media content providers by making a per episode donation. If you want to set a monthly cap so I don't go online and make a whole bunch of episodes and drain your bank account, you can set a monthly limit, and then you won't end up paying any more than that. This show is basically, this is starting up now. I'm trying to make this a full-time job. It is pretty much a full-time job with the amount of research that I put into everything that I do. My income comes from Patreon donations. So if anybody wants to see this web series continue, then if you've got the time and the money, go on to patreon.com/thebunk and make a pledge for a donation. So I have a goal. I want a $500 per episode, and that'll allow this web series to continue. Otherwise, I will have to actually look for a real job, which will be depressing. A real job, yes. But I want this to be my real job because it's something that I'm really passionate about. And I think it's something that is really important because it is so hard these days to work out what is news and what is not news. And particularly the scientific things can be really hard for people to understand what is science and what is not science.
Yeah, because what tends to filter to the top are clickbaity, dramatic, shocking, or funny type content.
I have a few examples of that today.
Okay.
But it's not just scientific stuff as well. Also, I do speak a little bit of legalese. My co-major at university was forensic evidence, so I do understand legal speak a little bit. So I can do stuff like that if it's a legal issue. I mean, it's a little bit harder for me because I kind of have to really, really think about what I'm reading. And legal stuff is a nightmare anyway. It's, if you put a comma in the wrong place, it can really change the meaning of the law entirely.
The Oxford comma lawsuit.
Oh, what? Was there such a thing?
Yeah.
I am a huge advocate for the Oxford comma.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
It cost $13 million. It was the way someone wrote something, whether it included or didn't include the very last word that it was commaing about overtime pay.
Are you looking it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
The following items do not count for overtime pay: the canning, processing, preserving, freezing, drying, marketing, storing, packing for shipment or distribution of agricultural produce, meat and fish products, and perishable items. The drivers argue due to lack of comma between packing for shipment and or distribution, the law refers to a single activity of packing, not to packing and distribution as two separate activities. As the drivers distribute but do not pack the goods, this would make them eligible for overtime pay.
Ouch. So what's your $32 million?
$13 million.
13. Well, that's still a lot of money.
It is. I don't know the outcome of this. There was a lot of attention at the time when it was hinging on the balance of which way is it going to go. The drivers won their lawsuit.
Oxford comma's important.
Yeah.
It saves a lot of trouble.
Your will is strong than Helsing. More wolfbane. More effective than wolfbane, Count. Indeed.
Anyway, so our first story. So we talked in the first episode about psychic vampires.
Did we?
Yeah. We briefly brought it up.
What are psychic vampires? Oh, the people who drain your energy. And that study was based on algae.
Yeah, well, no, that was...
Is that the one? Energy vampires?
We spoke about energy vampires in that story, but they weren't actually related. We just kind of brought it up. And I said maybe they're talking about energy vampires. Energy vampire was the original name for it, but Anton LaVey, the author of the Satanic Bible and the what's the word? First person that starts something. When you start a cult or something.
Cult leader?
No. What was Bill Gates to Microsoft? He was the not initiator.
God, the word is at the tip of my tongue. I can't get it out. Verbally constipated tonight.
He was the guy that started the Church of Satan, Anton LaVey.
It's not a joke. It's for real.
The Church of Satan? Okay, so the Church of Satan...
Is it like the spaghetti monster?
Kind of.
Okay.
So, yeah, it sort of is. So the Church of Satan, and the common misconception is that it's a satanic cult, as in they actually worshipped Satan. But it is actually it's kind of an antagonistic atheist cult. So they don't believe in any gods. They don't believe in... They're essentially atheists. But they use Satan as a symbol of humanity and human desires and all of the things that the church tries to repress, and they take advantage of a lot of religious symbols of Satan, and they kind of have co-opted those as sort of symbols of their own oppressed desires and things like that. So they're basically antagonists. They don't believe in they don't worship Satan because they don't believe in Satan.
But there's no weirdos like Wicca convention
There
lighting
are-
candles.
Oh, they do that, but it's all theatrical.
Okay.
There's a lot of the satanic stuff is theatrics. Yeah, but they also do things like when they put the Ten Commandments up because in the US they have separation of church and state. The government is not supposed to endorse a particular religion.
Yeah.
So they might have at a court someone will put up a 10 Commandments. So then there'll be some kind of I think there was one where it was the 10 Commandments, but it was in like a mock-up stone tablet kind of thing. So the Church of Satan decided to put up a monument to Baphomet with the 9 satanic commandments outside the courthouse. And they said, well, if you're allowed to do this because we have the non-establishment clause, we can also do this, and won.
Yep.
And proceeded to erect this statue. And they do that kind of thing. When they have the 10 Commandments in school, they say we should have the satanic 9 commandments. But they're not. They don't believe in Satan. They don't worship Satan. I mean, that would be absolutely ridiculous for a start. But to them, Satan is a symbol of what the church tries to oppress in humanity and human desires. So anyway, this Anton LaVey coined the term psychic vampire, which is a person who comes into your life and they just take and take and take. They're the friends that always need you to be there for them. They'll call you up at 3 o'clock in the morning and want help or whatever. But when you need someone there, they're like, I don't have time for this. Sorry. You know, they picked off somewhere.
Yeah.
They're not around. So they're people that just take and take.
Uh-huh.
So they're not good people. You kind of the people you don't want in your life. And I think it is actually a sin in the Satanic Church to feed a psychic vampire.
Oh, it's a sin in the Satanic Church to
Well,
feed a satanic.
To feed a psychic vampire.
Okay.
It's basically considered because one of the cardinal sins of Satanism is stupidity.
Right.
So it is considered.
People can't help being stupid.
It is considered stupid to feed a psychic vampire. It's basically look after yourself. You're number one. Look after yourself, and if a psychic vampire comes into your life, then you have to get rid of them.
Right.
And if you entertain those people, then you're committing a sin.
Right.
So we have here this paper crane. I don't even know how to pronounce that.
Apothecary?
Yes. What is that?
It's a chemist.
Oh, I've never heard that name before.
Really?
Yeah.
It's used to call a pharmacy in a lot of languages from the Germanic root.
All right.
Originally English too, before we couldn't say it anymore.
So we have.
Call it chemist, apothecary.
I prefer pharmacist because I'm a chemist. I'm not a pharmacist. I mean, I know a lot about pharmaceuticals, but that's only because of, I take personal interest in medical stuff. And I find drugs fascinating from an academic point of view, but I'm not a pharmacist. And I say to people, I'm a chemist, and they say, oh, so...
You own a chemist? You work at a chemist?
Facepalm. Yes. Yeah, that's what I get. But no, I'm not a pharmacist. I play with chemicals. I know. I studied chemistry at university.
Not push them to people.
Sometimes. So we have this psychic vampire repellent. It's a little spray bottle.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sprayable elixir that we can all get behind. This protective mist uses a combination of gem healing and deeply aromatic therapeutic oils reported to banish bad vibes and shield you from the people who may be causing them. Fans spray generously around their heads to safeguard their auras.
This is from the Goop website.
It is from Goop, yes.
Isn't this like Gwyneth Paltrow's website?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So
they've pretty much established that they're dead serious about this.
yeah, I can probably really buy this.
Oh yeah, $30 for 100 mils.
Wow, that's really expensive.
So I love the ingredients. Sonically tuned water is the first one. Not sure. I mean, do they put it in a sonicator? What
How do you know when the water's out of tune?
is it? Is it like, do they do the crystal thing where they, the crystal organs where they got all the wine glasses there and they?
But they're only in tune when they're inside those vessels. I guess it is in a vessel, in a 100 ml vessel.
Yeah, but once you use it, it goes out of tune.
That's true.
Rose water, grain alcohol. That's just alcohol. It's like ethanol. Sea salt. Therapeutic grades of rosemary, juniper, and lavender. A unique and complex blend of gem elixirs. Now, I can get behind the therapeutic grade theme, rosemary, juniper, and lavender.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're therapeutically active or that they actually do anything, but there is actually such a thing as therapeutic grade. There's certain quality controls that they have to have.
Okay.
But gem elixirs. Now, these are obviously not therapeutic grades. I think because they've got the
There's
coal in there.
stones in there.
I don't know what a gem elixir is.
It's a stone.
Got black tourmaline, lapis lazuli, ruby, labradorite, bloodstone, aqua aura. What the is aqua aura?
Stone.
Well, aqua's water.
It would be a blue stone, wouldn't it?
Black onyx, garnet, and pyrite, and
Fool's gold.
numite.
Numa.
Reiki. So they've bottled Reiki. Sound waves. Moonlight, love, Reiki charged crystals.
How do you bottle sound waves?
I can imagine how you
They
bottle.
just dissipate.
I can imagine how you bottle love, although I don't really want to spread that around.
Ew.
I mean, maybe some people might want that on their face, but
Cut.
don't. Never mind me, honey. I'm just warding off psychic vampires. Disclaimer: this product has not been evaluated by the FDA. Gem elixirs are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any medical condition. Gem elixirs are not intended to replace the advice or care of a medical professional.
What is a gem elixir? It's crystal essence. How do you get essence from crystal? It's a rock. Is it like stuff that leaches out of a rock when you put them in like a solvent?
No, because gems are
Rocks.
they're ionic salts or complex ionic salts.
Yeah, but they're not going to be water soluble. Like Labradorite is not going to dissolve in water.
No. So for anyone who doesn't know, an essence is the volatile oils of something. So rosemary essence is the volatile oils you get off rosemary. Gems are complex metal salts. There's no volatiles in those. They're quite solid and crystalline. And
I don't get it. I don't know what it is. It just sounds all too magical for me.
This is basically $30 smelly spray. Like this is that stuff that they're advertising at the moment. What's it, Poo Away or?
Oh, poopery.
Poop. This is stuff you spray in the toilet after you've had a really bad curry.
I bought that for my sister once. For a Christmas present.
I love some of the other stuff they have here. Because
Shake gently. Each spray around the aura to protect from psychic attack and emotional harm. Avoid contact with eyes.
the idea with these sprays is you're supposed to spray them around the head so you get the aura. So I love the thing down the bottom. They've also got, you might be interested, you got Chill Child Kid Calming Mist. For chilling out the kids, the rosewater and Reiki crystal infused aromatherapy mist is incredible. So I'm just imagining a little kid running around, like being in absolute terror. And you just like spray them in the face with this stuff and say, calm down. Is that really going to calm your child down?
It might cause more screaming.
You get a punch in the face. You're one of those, those kids that are on those current affairs shows and they're like putting holes in the wall. Just imagine spraying them in the face with this stuff. You're going to get punched in the teeth.
You should spray this to the Cash Me Outside girl.
Just go outside with her and just squirt her in the face with this stuff. Oh, she will you up.
She needs to calm down a bit.
Getting the kiddos to chill.
I'm so curious about this gem elixir. You can make your own.
To use, shake gently, then spray in the air around your child's aura to restore peace to the environment. Avoid spraying near the eyes. Do not ingest or inhale.
I don't know how people can sell this stuff in right conscious, like they know what they're selling. Sure, there's a bit of lavender oil in there and jasmine and chamomile.
This is liquid disaster.
Well, if it's just a bit of lavender and the chamomile, it's obviously going to have some sort of like a aromatherapy effect.
Oh, no, no, it's not going to harm the child. You spray around your wild child's aura. Again, this is not going to work. This will have the opposite to intended effect.
Yeah, especially since the crystals are Reiki charged.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. There's recipes on how to make your own gem elixirs, to dilute or not to dilute.
Oh, wait. I got to know this. How do they make...
Let's have a look. It is extremely important for you to choose and use the correct crystals. I don't know how much of this stuff she actually sells.
Clean slate, smoke-free smudge mist. There's good vibes you're after. Try a quick spritz of clean slate's cleansing elixir. I mean, I get good vibes after a quick spritz of vodka, but...
Although I wouldn't spray it all around you.
I'm pretty sure that would be just as effective at calming a wild child as the child spray.
Well, you get that often enough in the laboratory, right? When you're working under sterile condition, you have a bottle of 70% ethanol that you spritz that benches with. Well, I just wonder how much of this I can sell. I just throw a few rocks into a bottle, right? Then I buy some lavender oil and I throw it into this water with rocks in it.
Have you ever heard of the moon dust?
No.
It's like, no, the moon shakes or something? Oh, there you go, the sex... moon juice.
Oh, is this the stuff you showed me with the exploding glitter?
No, this is different. So we got sex dust, designed to ignite and excite sexual energy in and out of the bedroom. Out of the bedroom? Time and place, people, come on. Now, this is dust. You're supposed to put it into, like, into shakes.
Oh, you spark people's drinks? What's in it?
Lusty edible formula, alchemized to ignite and excite sexy energy in and out of the bedroom. Now in an extra potent supercharged blend, we recommend adding 1 teaspoon of this refreshed formula to 8 ounces of any hot or cold liquid. Makes approximately 25 servings depending on taste and desired level of potency. Ingredients: cacao powder.
Maca root. That'll do the job. Figured out how to make gem elixir.
Oh, how do you make gem elixirs?
So you get a bowl and you get your gem of choice and you put your gem of choice into this bowl and then you fill it up with water. But this water is not for drinking. You now take another jar and you fill it up with water and you put this jar into the water bowl. So the water are not in contact, the water in the jar and the gem water.
Okay.
It is the water in the jar that becomes a gem elixir by quantum tunneling. I don't know what.
What? What? So the gem isn't even destroyed in this, obviously.
No. Nor is it in contact with the water. That is the elixir.
Who
comes up with this?
Who comes up with this? This is ridiculous. Oh, man.
I want to set up a shop.
You a Goop shop?
A Goop shop.
Oh.
Markets.
She started an actual magazine, like a paywall magazine.
But I wonder
She's
how many
launched
people would actually buy this shit.
Oh, people do.
I'll be so curious to do a social experiment.
She still does it. I mean, this hasn't shut down. She's obviously buying this stuff to sell it, so they must be turning it over.
Well, it's not harming anyone, right?
Well, this
Most
stuff
of this
isn't.
is just probably placebo effect.
Yeah, but I think the vaginal steaming probably is.
Well, yeah. I do. Does she sell that on her website?
Not anymore. She copped too much shit over it.
All right.
Just a general word of advice. If Gwyneth Paltrow tells you to do anything to your vagina, don't.
This is speaking from personal experience.
Yes, I now have a penis. So don't do what Gwyneth Paltrow tells you to do. Side effects may be disastrous.
It's alive. It's moving. It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. Oh, in the name of God. Now I know what it feels like to be God.
Okay, so we have this lovely video here. This is Oscar the Modular Human. It essentially shows this little creature being put together in a lab and then crawling around the table. You seen this?
No. This looks really interesting. They look like just motors, actuators or something. It's a chicken.
It's supposed to be a human.
It looks like a chicken. Fake.
Fake? What makes you think it's fake?
Well, because to actually make a modular prototype human is going to require a lot of work, a lot of engineering, and it's not going to be something so small.
Well, I mean, the idea is not so much that it's supposed to look like a human. It's just supposed to be using...
It's supposed to replace human parts, right?
Yeah. Or basically use human concepts, use human DNA.
Yeah, no, something like that would be big.
Yeah.
Because you need to support the whole, like, you're not going to have a proper circulatory system, right? So you have a pump on board to do the circulation.
Yeah.
You can't do it that small. It's like smaller than the palm of my hand.
Yeah, I mean, that's... So the first thing for me was... the first thing was actually that the heart doesn't actually beat. There's no pulsing from the heart. There's sort of like some expanding from the lungs, but there's no like actual air intake.
Yeah.
There's no blood. There's nothing to keep.
Why would it need to breathe? Like there's motion of it sort of expanding and contracting. Why would it need to do that?
Yeah, exactly. Particularly if there's no blood, then it doesn't need to breathe.
Yeah.
And I mean, there is sort of this thing that kind of looks like a circulatory system.
It looks like it's electrically powered.
Which could be. I mean, if you have muscle material, you could actually get that to contract in the way that this has. And you could call the electric part like a brain. It's a control module. But yeah, there's nothing in here to keep the tissue alive. There's no blood or anything. You couldn't really call it a human. And
it looks like a chicken.
It does look like a chicken.
It looks like someone has chopped the chicken up into pieces and then played the video backwards.
Well, actually, you probably could get motion like that out of a chicken if there was salt on the table. Like with the frogs, the frog legs, you pour salt on them, they go crazy.
Have you seen the squid?
Yes, the dancing
soy
squid.
sauce?
Yeah.
I want to get a squid one day, make it dance.
Yeah, no, there's so much about this. But in this video, it's being portrayed as real, but it is actually from a science fiction page.
Oh, is it?
It's actually quite... I didn't read too much into it, but... So it's called the modular body. It's part of this new field of immersive fiction where you're not just reading a story or watching a movie or something. There's actual... It's like you're following the story. You're kind of involved in the story. You're interacting with the characters.
I don't understand why you need to create. I don't get it. Is this part of the story that they had created this modular human?
No, I mean, that's obviously some kind of special effects, or they've just, as you said, they've taken a chicken and put some electric charges through the muscles or something. So the modular body is an online science fiction story by Florist Cake about the creation of Oscar, a living organism built from human cells. His inventor is Cornelis Vlasman, a versatile and innovative biologist. Together with a like-minded team of professionals, he starts an independent laboratory where he experiments with organic materials.
Oh, okay. So it's like a short film segments in a fiction story.
It's sort of like a series, but it's immersive. So there's videos. They have a website. They've got some detailed anatomy here of what it is, how it works.
You can get so lost in this.
I think it's
so real.
I know.
It feels like a Kickstarter website.
I think I'll spend some time looking into this because it looks pretty cool. I'm quite impressed by the way this has been pulled together. But it is, at the end of the day, it is fiction.
How the hell do people have so much time to do this? Like, they've made the effort to make the videos, so they've made something real. They've made some sort of prototype.
It could be CGI. Doesn't look like it, but it could be.
If it is, like, that's a lot of effort that's gone into that.
Mm-hmm. It's like any creative project, really.
No, but I don't know. If only people would put their effort into something more worthwhile.
Art is worthwhile.
To Deepak to say, would you like to have a short course in quantum mechanics sometime so that we can straighten out your slightly misuse of quantum notation?
Thank you, Leonard. I would be honored, sir, and I accept your offer with great gratitude. By the way, today is Einstein's birthday, so we are at a very fitting place. And it just occurred to me, 3.14 is the approximation of the first approximation of pi, which refers to infinity.
Here's a lovely... Scientists find evidence of a multidimensional universe inside our brain.
Onion.
An exciting discovery has been made by scientists as they have uncovered that the human brain contains structures and shapes that have up to 11 dimensions. Neuroscientists welcome the findings, saying we have found a world where we had never imagined before.
The human brain's only three-dimensional, but I can see that they've gone into topology.
Yep. With the help of mathematical methods of algebraic topology, science has found... Typo there. Scientists have found structures in multidimensional geometric space in human brain networks.
So it's real. It's just poorly presented. We didn't discover additional dimensions.
Yeah.
We used multidimensional mathematics to model it.
Yeah, so you're right. But basically, this website is Educate, Inspire, Change, and it's intentionally misreported. You know, so that all the woo hippies get all excited about it. Like, man, we're multidimensional. Because I mean, even the scientists find evidence of a multidimensional universe inside our brain. So the premise of this article is saying that there's actually multidimensional universes inside our brain, and expand your mind and expand your consciousness to the inside multidimensional universe so that you can unleash the inner God and whatever. But this is based off a real scientific article, and you pretty much nailed it there, that they're using multidimensional topology. And people might ask, well, how can you have multidimensional topology if it's only 3 dimensions? And that is because each neuron in the brain connects to multiple neurons. So if you're trying to map the connections from one neuron to the next and to the next and to the next, you need, in that representation of that mix of those connections or the topology, you need more than 3 dimensions. But that's only a representational thing.
It's more like degrees of freedom.
Yeah. So the brain itself is only 3-dimensional. And there's no sort of...
Thank God for that.
Well, I mean, unless you count the...
Time?
No, unless you count string theory. So yeah, but this article in Wired, and you can tell easily that these guys have tried to manipulate it, because they actually explicitly state in this somewhere. Let's see if we can find it.
This is a different article.
This is the Wired article. This is the one. So the other one,
story, but
the same story, but this is from a more reputable,
different spinner.
Well, this is more reputable. They're not trying to say that we're all psychic energy. These guys are basically reporting the facts, and this is where that other article got this from. They even link to this Wired article. I didn't have to look very hard to find this. They link to this. And this is what you're saying. The space is simply a union of all the degrees of freedom the system has. That's exactly what you're saying, the degrees of freedom. It is important to understand that these structures do not exist in more than 3 dimensions in space. Only the mathematics used to describe them uses more than 3 dimensions. So it's purely to describe the connections. Actually, it's funny, this article, they say the same thing, but they word it differently in a very ethereal... Furthermore, this is from Educate, Inspire, Change. This is the hippie new age. Furthermore, experts note that while shapes that are 3-dimensional in nature have height, width and depth, the objects uncovered by experts in the study don't exist in more than 3 dimensions in our reality. However, mathematicians used to define them may contain as much as 5, 6, 7 or up to 11 dimensions. our reality. Reality is a myth. I mean, we could have that philosophical argument, but this is nothing to do with this article. Well, this article, yes, but the original article which they plagiarized from, no. This is just purely describing mathematical science, how it applies to neuroscience, and it's actually quite exciting. Because using this, we can understand the brain a lot better than we have in the past.
Yeah.
Stephen Hawking's probably shitting his pants because this is like the first step to true AI.
Progressive, multiple step. And it's started a long time ago with neural networks and
yeah. Imagine applying this to neural networks.
machine learning. It's all multi-dimensional data fitting. That's all it is. Looking at trends and fitting parameters.
Well, no, but okay. So I mean, this technique is not necessarily exactly, but what we can gain to understand. Because what they're talking about in this, there's a video attached to it where they're talking about using this as an imaging system. We're actually able to see patterns where previously we weren't able to see patterns.
If you looked at a movie of neural activity with neurons spiking here and here and here and here, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to detect any pattern in the firing. But when you look at this pattern of firing through the filter of algebraic topology, different structures emerge in terms of which families of neurons are firing in which order, and then more complex structures when you look at how these different families are related to each other. When one looks at the evolution of such a pattern through time, it gives us a mathematical signature that describes this pattern that was hidden in the seemingly chaotic firing of the network. The big question is, you're looking at the brain after a stimulus, and it has this activity pattern, and somehow it should be encoding information about what came in and then coming to some sort of decision about what to do next. What I think that we're seeing here is a way of interpreting or visualizing the brain's own code for what it's doing. It processes the information, it's encoding the input signal, and then it's coming to some sort of decision. And what algebraic topology enables us to do is to describe that encoding process and perhaps even to visualize the moment at which the brain is making a decision. So there are more and more intricate structures among these neurons that are building up as it's thinking about, it's processing the information, then boom, we come to a decision, whoop, and that's what we're detecting. We're detecting the information processing and decision-making processing of the brain.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of more the information which we're gathering from this technique is actually quite exciting.
Here comes the story of the hurricane. The man the authorities came to blame for something that he never done. Put in a prison cell.
Public to scientists, why can't we just nuke these hurricanes?
How's that even a question? I don't even know how to answer these questions.
Do you know why we shouldn't nuke hurricanes?
Well, for starters, they're not like a solid object that's going to be, the constituents are going to be blown apart by the energy from nukes. Like this table here will disintegrate in the presence of a nuke. Gaseous molecules.
I think the logic goes that the blast wave should scatter the hurricane, disrupt its airflow.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, first, no, we shouldn't nuke hurricanes.
Just like we shouldn't shoot bullets at them either.
Yeah, you know that there was a similar story to the bullet shooting one. Like the bullet shooting one was kind of tongue-in-cheek. But there was actually a Facebook group where they were trying to get people to point their fans at it and try and blow it away.
Wow.
Yeah, that's like 30,000 people pointing fans at the hurricane. I don't know how many of them were serious though, but I'm sure there would have been a few who were actually...
I don't want to live on this earth anymore. All them hurricanes.
So this is from IFLScience.
Yeah.
Some of these are actually, so I will pose the question, is this a real thing?
A real question to scientists?
Yes. Or is this just like a clickbaity article?
I would say probably a genuine question.
Yeah, it is. The people are genuinely asking this question. So the hypothesis is, as I said, that the blast wave would disrupt the patterns in the hurricane. But they go into numbers here. The strongest nuclear bomb that we have pales in comparison to the energy of a hurricane. I mean, that energy is a lot more dispersed. It's a lot harder because we know that hurricanes are destructive, but they're a lot more dispersed. If you were to concentrate the energy from a hurricane to something the size of a city, you'd see how. So they're saying the average hurricane is insanely energetic. As we previously reported, they release about 1.5 trillion joules via winds per second, which is nothing compared to the 600 trillion joules per second they release through cloud and or rain formation. So the heat alone is 600 trillion joules. If one kept this up for 24 hours, they'd release the equivalent of 824,914 little boy atomic bombs. The heat release is equivalent to a 10 megaton nuclear bomb exploding every 20 minutes. I mean, that's heat energy, but even wind energy, you're just not going to get the energy disturbance that you need. And another article, a related article, they say that I think it's something like 80 hurricanes a year or 80 pressure systems a year form that could potentially be hurricanes. Even if you were to, say, attack them when they were just forming, which probably you would have a better chance of success, you'd have to drop 80 nuclear bombs a year.
Wow,
into the
hurricane
ocean.
myth won't die.
This has been around for a long time.
The thing is, sure, you can try, but let's say it has an impact or it doesn't have an impact on the hurricane. What you're now left with is extremely violent spread of nuclear fallout material.
Exactly.
Wow, there's quite a lot of stuff on this.
So this question actually has been asked so many times that the hurricane research,
It's in the frequently asked questions page.
It's not only on the frequently asked question page. There is actually a specific page set up for this question.
Wow.
Because there are that many. So saying, according to 1993 World Almanac, the entire human race used energy at a rate of 10 to the power of 13 watts in 1990, a rate less than 20% of the power of a hurricane.
That's the total amount of nuclear power we've used.
No, that's the total amount of power. Total amount of energy in all forms consumed by the human race.
Ah.
In 1990.
Is 20% of the power of a hurricane.
Yeah.
We should harvest wind power.
Well, the trouble would be something that could mechanically survive it. It's not just wind power. As I was saying before, a lot of that is thermal energy as well. But to be fair to all the people that constantly ask this question, the Americans actually did seriously pose this question. The government seriously posed this question in the dawn of the nuclear age. Can we nuke hurricanes? And they clearly said no. But there were a lot of questions about peacetime uses for nuclear energy, even including nuclear weapons.
Yep.
And we're continually asking the question, can we nuke asteroids? Whether it's to try and blow them apart or to try and redirect them on their course. But they seriously assessed the possibility of nuking a hurricane. And when they did the maths of it, I mean, it's a worthwhile question asking. I wouldn't ridicule them for asking the question, because if no one's asked it before, then you may as well look at it. But when they did the math, they just said, no, there's no way that this could possibly have an effect. Even to try and disturb the airflow, it just would not possibly work. But yeah, this question keeps coming up every year. They keep asking the question, why don't we just launch nuclear bombs? And the biggest concern is that not only is it ineffective, but you've got a hurricane spreading fallout around everywhere. And rain too.
Yeah.
And that fallout wouldn't go around the planet like a normal bomb or a normal accident. You've got a hurricane, so that's pretty much going to fall out immediately in the form of rain. around the affected area. So no, don't nuke hurricanes. Don't shoot at hurricanes. You could try pointing your fans at them. Actually, no, don't do that either, because that takes energy and that contributes to global warming, which means more powerful hurricanes. But I have this fantastic article for us to read. So this is a tell me if you reckon this is an onion. Please do not put these wasps' nests in your vagina, no matter what you read.
I think that's good advice.
Picture of a wasp's nest. So I guess the question is this a genuine article? And if it is, are people actually putting wasps' nests into their vaginas?
I don't know what people are putting into their vaginas, but this seems like a genuine article.
Attention, everyone with a vagina. We have a very special announcement for you. No matter what you read or hear about, do not put wasp nests into your vagina.
Apparently, there's a rumor going around about the medicinal properties of the wasp nest to help tighten your vagina.
Mm-hmm. Concept is simple. You take tiny balls that the wasps use to deposit larvae and shove it up there. It's supposed to work much in the same way as those jade eggs are supposed to work, but both wasp nest and jade eggs are not good for your hoo-ha. Very scientific term. The jade eggs aren't good for you because seriously there's no such thing as replenishing your feminine energy, we're sorry, although it does sound nice. So, you think this is a serious article?
Yeah.
And you think that people are seriously doing this?
Yeah.
Well, it's half true.
Half true?
Half true.
I was hoping it wasn't.
All right, so this is from Hello Giggles. They're a usual suspect.
Are they?
This is a site which was started by Zoe Deschanel.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and it was supposed to be like this feminist thing, right? Because they've got all female writers and whatever. It has basically turned into the opposite of feminist. It's become everything, like it's basically become the typical women's trash tabloid magazines like Women's Day and basically the kind of thing that rots the brains of women.
Yeah, but that's written by women for women.
To rot their brains. It's just, it's the most asinine shit that I see on this website.
I have not seen this website yet.
Oh, it's terrible. I mean,
I feel so sheltered from this dumb shit on the internet.
I mean, it's not the dumbest shit on the internet by any means. And some of the articles on there are actually really good. But so often you'll see stuff like this. So they're claiming that people are just taking wasps' nests, and they've even got a picture of a paper wasp nest here. And they're saying, yep, get the wasp nest and up it goes. And it's a nest that the wasps use to deposit their larvae. That is totally wrong. So for a start, this is what they're talking about. This is what actually is being used to make preparations to put inside the vagina. It looks like a seed.
It looks like a round ball.
Yep.
Of
so
growth.
What this is called an oak gall. And it's a particular species of oak, which has the most amazing name. Why anyone would want to put this up their vagina, I have no idea. It's called Quercus infectoria. Anything that has the word infectoria? No. Why would you put that anywhere near yourself? So what this is there's a wasp that comes along to the tree and it finds a nice little soft spot on the tree and it injects its eggs.
Mm-hmm. And
the tree responds to this. It's basically an inflammatory response from the tree.
Mm-hmm.
It responds by forming this big ball, this oak gall, or sometimes called an oak apple. And there's actually a lot of different chemicals inside these oak galls, actually very specific chemical properties inside them. And the larvae will eat their way out of the oak galls. So you can see these little holes in the picture here.
Right.
That's where the larvae have actually eaten their way out.
Yeah.
So they're not actually wasp nests. They're kind of an inflammatory response.
So the wasp didn't build it. The tree swelled around.
Yeah. So, but it is part of the reproductive cycle. The wasps kind of count on these So the Hello Giggles article also says that, be careful because it could also be wasp larvae inside.
Well, there would be.
There could potentially be, but the thing is that you don't put this up there.
Oh, you don't?
No. That's not how it's done. I didn't find anywhere other than this article. Not because this Hello Giggles article references to an article by a gynecologist.
Mm-hmm. Ew. Jade eggs are porous.
Oh, don't do the jade eggs. The idea of the jade eggs is they're heavy and you're supposed to use them to exercise your pelvic floor muscles. But there's been some certain number of people, like Gwyneth Paltrow, who I'm serious, who have advocated for just leaving it there and walking around and going about your daily business. That is what is a bad idea. If you want to use jade eggs to exercise your pelvic floor muscles, as long as you're cleaning them.
But they're porous. You can't clean them properly. That's
True. Yeah, true. But regardless of where the real problem is with the recommendations that you leave them in there and then go about your daily business. That's where people are really getting into trouble. Again, don't take vaginal advice from Gwyneth Paltrow.
Or from podcasts.
Oh, God. So I clicked on this. And
how did you end up here?
Oh, she's done a post on it. So she's done a post on the psychic vampire stuff. So I clicked on this page.
Oh, my God.
And we've ended up back with the psychic vampire repellent.
Okay, explain what the page is.
This is Dr. Jen Gunter's page. So this is her blog where she talks about...
And Jen Gunther comes from...
She's the gynecologist that wrote the article that Hello Giggles was referencing. Welding the lasso of truth. Oh, that's a Wonder Woman reference. I can't... Are you pointing to something? I can't see anything.
No. Where does this come from? This came from the other article, the Wasp article, right?
Yeah, this is coming from the Wasp article.
Gunther is the gynecologist.
Yeah, she's an OBGYN.
Okay.
And a pain medicine physician. So, yeah, she knows what she's talking about. This is her field of expertise. So, there's nowhere on Jen Gunter's page where she's not recommending this, or any page where people are recommending this where they're saying just put the whole thing up there. So, what you do is you're supposed to grind it up, and then you can either make an extract from that or you can make a paste from it. And you apply that too. And I never found anything which was specifically saying how that works, whether you're actually supposed to insert it or you just apply it to the outside. But it's supposed to tighten the vagina. And this is kind of like a whole thing where you're supposed to have a tight vagina to please your man more. First of all, any guy complains your vagina isn't tight enough, slap him and tell him to f*** off. Seriously? That's just not cool, man. Not cool. Yeah, so they're supposed to tighten the vagina and control excess discharge. The biggest problem with this is nothing to do with the wasps.
Mm.
The biggest problem with this is it actually works, but not in the way that people think.
What, it causes your vagina to shrivel up and die?
In a sense.
Ew.
So it's an astringent. So it causes constriction of tissues. So in the case of the vagina, the reason why it makes it tight is it constricts the mucosal membrane. So it does have the effect of making it feel tighter, but it also has the effect of essentially disabling the mucosal membrane. So you're not producing lubricant, which is dangerous during sex. It increases the risk of transmission of STDs. It reduces pleasure. It can result in infections. The other problem with it is that it is actually a really good antibiotic. It has antimicrobial properties. And it was traditionally used in the Levant, in this sense, for post-childbirth treatment.
Yeah.
And they used to apply this oat gall, or powdered pasty form of it, to the vagina after childbirth to try and help speed up recovery because it's actually good antimicrobial. But there's a trade-off there, and that is that if you do it to a perfectly healthy vagina, you're going to interrupt the flora, the bacterial flora, which, I mean, humans are symbiotic creatures. We live in harmony with a lot of microbiological creatures. that live in our gut to help us digest things. And I mean, I have to confess ignorance. I have no idea what they do in the vagina, but I know that they're there and you're not supposed to get rid of them. Douching is a bad idea. Don't douche. I mean, while some people may think it's great to put my antimicrobial because that sounds clean, no, don't do it. I mean, vaginas are great. Uterus is a different story. They tend to make everyone's life a living hell. But vaginas are like, they're self-cleaning. They're kind of self-maintaining. Generally speaking, there's no need to intervene with it, and you're probably better off not intervening with it in most cases. So don't put antimicrobials in there. I mean, so this is the problem that they're seeing from this oat gall stuff, is that you're getting vaginas that are getting infected because the flora have been upset and there's damage being done by the astringent effect of the oat gall inside. So, yeah, I would mirror this sentiment. Don't do this. But yeah, no one is actually taking pure wasps' nests and sticking them inside themselves. It's a total misrepresentation of what's actually happening.
Yeah, I agree. The article is misleading.
The galls, which contain tannin and small amounts of gallic acid and ellagic acid, have antimicrobial qualities and are used in Southeast Asia, especially Malaysia and Indonesia, by women after childbirth to restore the elasticity of the uterine wall. In India, it has been used as a dental powder and as a treatment for toothache and gingivitis. There's actually a good use for it. It is a powerful astringent, the most powerful of all vegetable astringents. It can be applied topically or taken orally. Yeah, don't use it as a feminine wash or to make yourself tight or whatever. It's just a bad idea.
People are selling this on Etsy.
Mm-hmm. You can get it in a lot of places.
No, people are actually using the whole thing.
Where?
On Etsy.
What?
Look, this is what they're selling.
No, they're herbal balls.
Aren't they the whole tree?
No, they're not the galls. They're herbal balls. They're like little packages. They've packed them with herbs.
Ah.
So that's not the oat gall. That's not related at all.
I followed the links.
Yeah, it can be confusing, but they're not the same thing. They're little cotton balls things which are packed with herbs, and you're supposed to put them inside you. Are there any instructions there for the oat galls?
Oh, this is the web page.
Yeah, if you look at the instructions, I should say to grind them up. I love this headline. Women are putting ground wasp nests inside their vaginas and doctors want them to stop.
Unchain my heart, baby, let me be. 'Cause you don't care. Well, please set me free.
All right.
Okay. Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein, carried her deceased husband Hart with her wherever she went for 30 years.
Very Frankenstein-like.
Hey, it is. It is. But is it true?
Frankenstein was written a while ago, wasn't it?
We're talking the early 1800s.
Yeah.
Is the era of...
what capacity do you have to preserve and transport a heart around for 30 years? It would go gross.
Yeah, it would.
I'd say false.
You'd say false? So this is something
it's a piece of her husband's heart.
This is something that I saw as a meme recently, but it is actually an old legend. And it is actually true.
Everything is true tonight.
Kind of. Well, except for the psychic vampire repellent.
Oh, yeah. But it was a real product.
It was a true story. Well, I nearly pulled up one that was false, but anyway. So these are just ones that I thought were interesting. So Mary Shelley, so what happened was her husband had died and he was cremated on the beach. Let's see if we can find the thing of his death. Okay. On 8th of July, 1822, less than a month before his 30th birthday, Shelley drowned in a sudden storm off the Gulf of Spezia while returning from Leghorn to Lerici in his sailing boat, the Don Juan. He was returning from having set up the Liberal with a newly arrived Leigh Hunt. So his body was temporarily buried, but then it was only sort of a thing, but he was dug up and cremated. Now, Mary Shelley wasn't there.
Right.
I don't know whether she couldn't make it to the cremation, or I did read what happened, but I didn't. I mean, it's not really that relevant. But regardless, she wasn't there. She wasn't present at the cremation. But one thing they noticed as the fire was dying down was that his heart was left intact. It actually survived the fire. Now, there's no actual real explanation for this, but modern physicians hypothesized that his heart had been partially calcified from a tuberculosis infection that he had had.
Yeah.
Which meant, that the calcium fibers in the heart would have survived. So the organic parts of the heart probably would have
so
burnt away.
She took the burnt heart, and that's what she carried with her.
One of his friends reached into the pyre, grabbed the remains of the heart, and gave it to her. And she didn't carry. I mean, this wasn't like Angelina Jolie and Billy Bob Thornton. They carried around the amulet with the blood.
Oh yeah.
But she did carry it in her personal belongings everywhere she went. So she didn't have it on her person at all times, but it was sort of part of her luggage, you could say. But yeah, it wasn't like a gross heart. It wasn't a leathered heart. It was basically the calcified remains of his heart which had survived the fire. And those remains, it wasn't something which was intentional. And she didn't be like, I want his heart. It's kind of romantic in a way.
It's creepy.
It's creepy, but
I prefer people to leave me alone and not, take little mementos for themselves.
But it wasn't something which was intentional. It didn't mean for this to happen.
But they still took mementos.
Come on, people were superstitious in those days. Now, I don't know whether Mary Shelley was religious at all, but you think of the 1800s when you burn someone's body and their heart stays behind, you kind of think, well, that must mean something. Particularly when it's their heart, which is seen as the
love still goes on.
Yeah, it's that kind of poetic romance kind of thing. So I thought it was, and when I read this, I thought, no, it can't be true. This is like an urban legend, but apparently it's true. They have found evidence, and I think her grandson had it in the end.
Oh,
ended up with Percy's heart.
Unfortunately, there's no video of it. Oh, photos anywhere
of his heart. I think it was
destroyed.
Eventually destroyed. But there's actually I have somewhere. See if I have the notes. There's actually I found photos of her diary where she talks about his heart. That was the point where I kind of went, okay, this is not just total bullshit. Yeah, so on the certain websites, like of libraries, you can actually read her diary. And there's mentions in there of it. Her handwriting's quite hard to read because it's all like in 19th century cursive, which is quite beautiful to look at, but I can't understand a word of it. For all accounts, taking into account the continuity of the story, the fact that physicians have actually seriously looked into a possible explanation for this, and also reading her diary, this actually seems to be true. As weird as it is.
That's kind of cool. That's true.
It is, particularly as you said, she's the author of Frankenstein.
It's very fitting.
Kind of, yeah. Just about wraps it up. If you like what we do here, you can go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/thebunk and make a per episode donation there if you like. If you don't feel like making a per episode donation, you can get our website, thebunk.com.au, and click on the top. You can go to PayPal and make a one-off donation there. If you don't feel like making a donation, if it's too much work, you don't have enough money, you can go into iTunes or Stitcher and make a recommendation there. Give us some hearts and show us how much you love us. Also, you can get our website, thebunk.com.au, click on Contact Us. You can make a recommendation for a story there. We would love some recommendations. Tell us what you think we should look into. Does that cover it? I feel like I've forgotten something.
I think.
Oh, that's what I forgot.
What?
I forgot to mention that the free show is censored. I'm trying to keep like a PG rating on the free show. But if you go onto patreon.com and become a patron, you can actually get the uncensored version. Not unedited, because the unedited version's too boring. I'm a boring person. I'm a really good editor. I can make myself sound exciting, but really the unedited versions are not all that exciting. There's a lot of dead air, a lot of things you don't want to listen to.
A lot of secret discussions.
But anyway, yeah, if you want to become a patron, you can get our uncensored versions. We are working on getting a schedule. We're trying to find a day which really works, but once we get that day going, then we will have a regular schedule, and if you're a patron, you can get that show early as soon as I'm done editing it. So that's very cool. And there will be the PG version early as well if you don't like swearing. Who doesn't like swearing? And that wraps it up for the show. Catch you next week.
Catch you next week. But what's her name? Ivanka Trump doesn't look like that.
Ivanka Trump doesn't look like Donald Trump. I swear to God, she's not his daughter.
No, she does look like him.
Creepy.
There's so many similarities where features that he has that they both share look really good on her, but they don't look so good on him. What were you thinking?
Wasn't she like a runway model or something at one stage?
She is.
I'm just picturing Trump on the runway in like a
She's really
tight-fitting
pretty.
dress.
She's really pretty. Anyway, I quite like her.
I can work Donald Trump into my intro. Wait. You ready? Coming at you on location from Nambian, this is The Bunk, your source of fact-check information for the mainstream media to your undies Facebook ramblings.
I missed the beginning. What was that?
I'll say it again, because I screwed it up anyway.
Well, if it's just a bit of lavender and the chamomile, it's obviously going to have some sort of like a aromatherapy effect.
Oh, no, it's not going to harm the child. But in Soviet paper crane, child harm you.
Huh?
That's obviously a joke you haven't heard before.
No, I haven't. I have tried to follow 1,000 paper cranes before.
Sorry. I'll say that again and just cut it so I can say it properly. But in terms of these Pacific garbage patches, it's not going to do anything. And this is really, really, really hard to clean up because they are microfine particles of plastics.
Yep.
They do affect marine creatures because they get stuck in the stomachs of the marine creatures. The plasticizers leach out, so it's toxic as well. But to clean it, how do you clean it up? You can't filter it. You can't pick it up because you can't even see it.
Well, it sounds like the marine animals, if they're picking it up, they're the best filters. So we should introduce more marine life into the ocean. Well, I found out that after doing a lot of correspondence with you, I'm like, why is none of your stuff showing up on my feed? And I realized I don't follow you. And I'm like, no wonder none of this stuff has ever come through. And I think it's because once upon a time in Facebook, when you friended someone, you automatically didn't follow them. Right. But now the default of friending someone, you automatically follow them. And any of your old friends that you made prior to that where you didn't explicitly follow them, you don't follow. You know what I mean? Yeah, so we
stop following me because I post a lot of
Oh no, they're funny. So I've refollowed you because sometimes you post stuff on there and you're like, oh, did you see this? I'm like, no. How come I don't see anything? And then it's really weird. On my Facebook, I have a whole bunch of of people that I see all the time. And I'm like, some of the people, I'm like, I have no idea who this is. I see her post like almost every day, at least on a weekly basis. I know what she's up to. I know what country she's in. I know where she's traveling to. But I don't know who she is. Looking at mutual friends, I have a clue of where I may have known them from. Like, it's usually high school. But I'm like, I see your photo, yet I still don't know who you are.